Welcome back, listeners to Learning from Friends. My name is Cade Curtis, your tour guide in this love adventure that we get to do bi-weekly together. And today is our 2024 Christmas episode. I'm excited today that we're going to do a special holiday episode where we'll be talking with my great Aunt Sue about what Christmas has meant to her over the years, in such as like with family traditions, memory, people that have impacted her ideas, and her family as well. But before we can get started into that, we got to do my mom's quote of the day. So, Mom, take it away.
However mean your life is, meet it and live it. Do not shun it and call it hard names. It is not so bad as you think. It looks poorest when you are richest. The fault finder will find faults even in paradise. Love your life, difficult as it is. You must live in the present. Launch yourself on every wave. Find your eternity in each moment. Fools stand on their island of opportunities and look toward another land. There is no other land. There is no other life but this. By Henry David Thoreau.
Beautiful words. Great Aunt Sue, welcome to the podcast, and it's a pleasure to have you here today.
Okay. My name is Sue Nell Curtis Hansard. I prefer to be called Sue Hansard. And my parents were Otis V. Curtis and Dora Crane Curtis. I am the fifth child of 5 siblings. My brothers and sisters were quite a few years older than me. And actually, when I started to school in 1954, my oldest brother, Major, was 18. My next brother, Elmer, was 17. Weldon was 15. Hazel was 13. With these age differences, I didn't experience farm life in the same way that my siblings did. For the most part, they all spoiled me. I was a curious child, always asking, "Why are you doing that? Show me how you did that." Everyone took time to explain these things to me, and I was pretty much like an only child because Hazel moved out of the house at the age of 16, and Major went to the Army. So this left me with all my parents' attention, and I became a very protected child. I lived on our red dirt farm, which is the name of my memoir that I wrote during the COVID years. Tommy and I got married at ages 19 and 17. We didn't graduate high school. This was the biggest hurt that I caused my mama because she wanted all of us to go to school and graduate, but we all made different choices. My mother finished common school at Macedonia, Cherokee County, Georgia, on September the 2nd, 1927.
That's amazing to be able to have a whole entire experience of you got older siblings, and then you have you are the youngest of 5, but you're getting spoiled as almost like being the only child. That's really cool to be able to have that life experience and to be able to share in. You had the foundation laid for you by your other siblings. So let's go into talk a little bit about, we're in the holiday season and there's so many different topics and so many different things to talk about. Let's talk about my favorite thing of the holiday season is food. Let's start out with food here, just because I find that fun. Is there a dish or a snack that you always associate with Christmas, and do you have a favorite?
Yes. My mother used to make sorghum syrup cake.
Ooh, nice.
That's kind of like in the area of a gingerbread.
Okay.
But it was made from flour, sugar, butter, eggs, and then quite a bit of sorghum syrup inside the batter. And then the sorghum was heated with some butter and drizzled over the top, which made it a nice, gooey
Oh,
cake.
that sounds delicious.
And she also made coconut cakes because during the Christmas season, my dad would go to the farmer's market. and he would buy a full bushel of apples, a bushel of oranges, quite a few bananas, and the awesome coconuts, which my dad had convinced me was mule eggs. So to figure out what that mule egg is all about, you would need to read Raised on Red Dirt, and there's a whole story in there about me trying to find the mule egg.
It's my favorite story in the entire book, just to let you guys know. And there will be a link to it in the description. So if you want to be able to go and purchase the book, that it is available.
So our Christmas meal actually consisted of one of the yard chickens, or a rooster, that got killed and plucked and boiled. So when Mama got the chicken cooked, she would pick all of it off of the bone, and she would save the broth and make what she called rooster gravy.
Rooster gravy. Okay.
And so she used the neck, the gizzard, the heart, the
No waste at all.
no
Everything.
waste, and she picked the meat off of the neck of the chicken neck, and so she put all of that in there, plus some of the picked off chicken, and she would thicken it just a little bit
Okay.
with flour. But she also added some boiled eggs to it. So our rooster gravy is now what we call Jubilee gravy.
Oh,
So it's
okay.
still a standard thing here in the Curtis family that we all make a version of rooster gravy Thanksgiving and Christmas.
I do love eating the gravy. It's delicious. Especially putting on top of the turkey or ham. Oh, it's so good. Now, whenever you're cooking, have you ever had any holiday failures or a cooking experiment, such as dropping food or burning a pie, or any missed ingredients that created a whole new experience?
No, I don't remember Mama having any accidents, but I've made quite a few. My cakes, when a recipe tells you to bring your butter and your eggs to room temperature, you need to do that because it makes your batter gooey if you don't.
Oh.
So that way, when you blend butter and sugar and eggs, they need to be room temperature. So I wound up with hard sovereign cakes.
Oh.
So I learned, and now if I made one, it would be soft and gooey.
Now, I'm guessing, I could be wrong, but who taught you to cook?
My mama, because I was left at home, and like I said, I virtually had all of their attention. So when Mom and Daddy would go to the field in the summer, she would leave me what was to be cooked, because back in those days, we had dinner at lunch.
Mhm.
And so Mama would put out the vegetables she wanted me to cook, and we used plain cornmeal that got ground at a mill, and it had no leavening agents in it.
Oh.
So you had to add your baking soda and salt. So for the type of pan that Mama used, she used a big iron skillet, and there was a certain amount of meal that went, and I believe it was like 2 cups, maybe 2.5 cups of meal, and basically a teaspoon of baking soda and maybe a tablespoon of salt to go in as your leavening agents.
Huh.
So she would put all that in the meal, and then I had to add the buttermilk and put it in the pan and bake it.
And the buttermilk would come, that y'all would make your own buttermilk, correct?
Yes, from the milk that came from our cows. I don't know if people know about how you get buttermilk, but you actually take the sweet milk and you put it beside in our case, by the fireplace, and you let it sour, and it's called clabbering the milk. So it would get thick and lumpy. Then you would churn the milk, and it would make the butter rise to the top. And the churn was like a big crock that would hold maybe 3 gallons of liquid. And there was a cross-looking paddle that went into the milk through a round lid with a hole over the handle. And you would agitate the milk up and down, up and down, and up and down. And that was the job I hated
I can believe
worse because it took forever. And eventually, my Uncle William gave my mama an electric churn.
Oh.
So what she had to do was put it in a smaller container, and the electric churn spun it. So it hung over the top of the container, and when you turned it on, it would spin like a mixer. And so then the butter collected around the, I guess you call it the beaters or whatever.
And you take it off.
And then you'd take it off, and there you had your buttermilk. And Mama added salt to the buttermilk and salt to the butter.
That is amazing. And things that we don't think about and we take for granted today a lot whenever we just go to the grocery store and picking something out. But all the work that goes into it and what you've got to be able to do, it's especially when that is your livelihood, to be able to, if you want to eat, to be able to make, if you want buttermilk, you got to make it. You got to be able to get it there.
Right.
Now let's jump to some traditions. Did you hang stockings at Christmas by a fireplace or somewhere else? And were they filled by Santa?
Well, no, we didn't have store-bought anything. So we used our socks.
Okay.
We would take one sock and put it over the fireplace, which had a heater in the fireplace. Daddy had put a piece of metal and installed our wood heater. There was a hole cut for the stovepipe to go into the chimney to let the smoke out. So there was a board across the top, and we called it the fireboard.
Okay.
And that was mainly where Mom and Daddy's snuff glasses sat, and the matches were there so that you had them convenient, because basically you were living in the dark, because until 1955, 54 and 55 is when the electricity was installed in our house. So you had to have your matches available to light your oil lamp. And that's what the fireboard was for. The oil lamp sat there and the matches beside it so that in the dark you could find it.
To be able to light it up.
And so whenever we hung our socks, I remember one Christmas, my dad was kind of a joker. Always he was always telling funny stories and stuff like that. Well, Mama had bought me a pair of red socks, and I was looking in my drawer and everything for my socks, and I couldn't find my red socks.
Oh, no.
And I was saying, Santa won't come if I don't have my red sock. And so Daddy pretended that he was helping me look for my socks. And so I was just almost in tears.
Aww.
And he bent over in front of me and said, well, let's look under this chair. And so when he bent over, there was my red socks in his bib overall pocket. And so he let me get my socks out. And I was looking at him, and he just had this big booming laugh, and he thought that was so funny. But anyway, I hung my red sock, and we would get, in addition to the bushel of fruits that Daddy bought.
Mhm.
Somehow or another, Mama managed to get us great big red, delicious apples
Ooh,
and oranges, some candy sticks, and some chocolate wrapped candies.
nice.
And we also had a candy that was called bucket candy.
Okay.
And it was cream candy similar to the now candy corn.
Okay.
That was the texture of the candy. But we also had the wax candy, which is like the orange slices that you still can buy
Oh,
now.
yeah.
So it had lime, lemon, cherry, strawberry, orange flavors. So that was always available to us.
A nice treat.
Yeah. So that's usually what we got in our stockings. And one Christmas, my dad, as I say, was a joker. And he kept telling me after I went to see Santa Claus, he said, I'm going to tell you what, if that old woolly rascal don't come and put something in my sock this year, I'm going to shoot him. I said, no, Daddy, you can't do that. And so Christmas morning, Daddy had hung his sock on the rail of his chair that sat by the heater. And back in those days, you wore your socks till they fell apart. So Daddy's had quite a large hole along the ankle. And I looked at it and I said, well, Daddy, whatever Santa's going to put in there is going to fall out because of that big old hole. So he thought that was real funny. So the next morning, we all got up looking in our socks to see what we got. And somehow or another, at that particular moment, I realized Mama didn't have a sock and she don't have anything.
Oh.
So I politely got real sassy and said, I don't like Santa Claus no more because he didn't leave my mama nothing.
Oh.
And so everybody was kind of wide-eyed and looking at each other and said, well, you can't be mad at Santa Claus because he brought you all that stuff. And I said, yeah, but my mama's gooder than anybody, and she should have got more than any of us.
Oh. That's love right there. That is love. Now, did y'all have someone in the neighborhood or in town that would dress up as Santa? Or someone in the family?
No, we all, when we got to see Santa, we were taken to Kessler's store in Canton, Georgia. And it had a downstairs, and Santa Claus sat in a great big rocker with his sack beside his chair. And there was toys on shelves all around him. So that's where we went to see Santa Claus. And basically, he told Santa Claus. And again, there's quite a few Christmas stories about my mama and me falling into Santa Claus's beard
Oh.
because I was afraid of him. And Mama kept trying to pull me up too close to him. And I was hanging on to the bottom of her dress. And so she pulled the dress out of my hands, and then I just tumbled straight into Santa Claus's chest, and my face was buried in his beard. But anyway, I got my dolly, and I got my little red wagon that year.
That's wonderful to be able to have those little, like, memories and stuff. And speaking of, like, memories, like, what traditions do you fondly recall from your childhood with Christmas time?
Everybody being together, and everybody seemed to be happy. That's what Christmas is now with my adult children. It's just being together and having lots of good food.
That is a true statement there. Being family is the biggest key thing right there. Be able to be all together and be able to share that. And would everybody kind of come together from the family, or would you do like was there like when waking up on Christmas, was there like a routine of like, hey, we eat at this time first, then we go and we visit everyone's houses and their kids? Was there like a routine that y'all would do for Christmas morning?
Not really. We would get up and look in our socks, and then Mama made breakfast. And it was a standard breakfast of eggs and gravy and either ham or fatback or some kind of meat and biscuit, lots of biscuits, and sorghum syrup
Mm.
and red-eye gravy.
That's with coffee, right? Coffee grounds?
Yeah, red-eye gravy is where you fry your pork, whatever it be, sausage, ham, tenderloin, and you use the grease and you boil coffee. You add a cup of coffee to the actual grease and let it boil. So that takes away some of the water content of the coffee.
Okay.
So it becomes slightly thick, but not real thick, not like gravy, if white gravy. So the treat was that you got to put a lot of brown sugar into the gravy. And then you used your biscuit, and we called it sopping our gravy.
Sopping, I like that. That's a fun little line right there. Now, was there any games that you would play around Christmas time?
Well, basically the only games that we had was checkers. And the way that we played the checkers was Weldon would get a large cardboard box from Mr. Charlie Owens' store, which is in the Macedonia community that we bought quite a few groceries from. And the little store is still here at the corner of Owens Store Road and Arbor Hill. The building is there, but that's where the store was. And he would get a cardboard box and cut it out, and he would draw the squares. And he let me color the black and red squares with my crayons.
Oh, nice.
And for the checkers, we had the knee-high orange caps that come off of the soda bottles. And then we had the Coca-Cola caps that came off.
So you knew whose was what by that.
Well, that was what our checkers were. So Weldon, my middle brother, he was the checker champion. Nobody could beat him. And one time, I kept saying, I'm going to beat you sometime. I'm going to beat you sometime. Legitimately, I beat him once in my lifetime.
Hey, once is once. That's all that matters. You got your one. You got your one. Now, as traditions kind of continue on as you get older, was there any traditions that you can continue to carry on to your kids and grandkids?
Well, I don't really recall too many traditions except with my own children. When they were smaller. We all had to wait and go to the Christmas tree together.
Oh.
So when Santa Claus came, he put everything in sections around the tree, like for Nina and Harold and Lance. They would be, all their stuff was together. So we would go into the tree, and they weren't allowed to start eating candy until they'd have breakfast.
Smart. Very smart.
So that's pretty much the only tradition that we had as I had as an adult with my children. But we always had good meals, and Hazel and her family used to come Christmas Eve, and we would have Christmas Eve supper. And on Christmas Day, it was pretty much we stayed at home until time to have dinner, and we would go to Tommy's mother's. And Tommy's sister's children would all be at Grandma Hansard's.
Now, speaking of like home, and like your house and everything there, are there some smells that remind you of your childhood and Christmas time of the year?
Yes, evergreens, the cedar and the pine and cinnamon cookies.
Oh,
Back in those days, Mama would make tea cakes,
okay.
and she put some cinnamon and nutmeg in them, but she made them in the flour bowl that you made biscuits in.
Oh,
So you added your Crisco or lard. Back in those days, is what she used, was hog lard, sugar, butter, and she worked it up into a dough and then rolled them out and cut the cookies with an upside down glass. That was
smart.
the glass was the cookie cutter. And when they baked, right before she put them in the oven, she would sprinkle them with a little bit of brown sugar.
Ooh, it makes them extra sweet.
Yes. And now that is called sugar cookies.
But for you, they were teacup cakes or tea cakes?
Tea
Tea
cakes.
cakes.
Yeah.
It's funny how names kind of can change and stuff over the years of what we call it one thing is like another kind of deal for someone else. For the holiday season, when it comes around, what makes it feel like the holiday season is now here for you?
All of the stores putting their Christmas stuff out so early. It kind of bothers me that they put it out before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, you got to get through one holiday before you can do the next one.
Right, because Thanksgiving actually at our house was a bigger deal than Christmas because family came
Yeah, the big family gatherings.
at Thanksgiving. So I had one aunt, Effie, and she would always bring a white coconut cake, and she had maraschino cherries on top of it,
Ooh,
and
nice.
the juice of the cherries drained down into the cake all the way to the bottom layer. She would just
Let it soak.
let
Yeah.
it soak in it. Oh, was it ever good?
I can believe that for sure. Like being able to have that, and you had a lot of nice little sweet memories there from like the little sweet tooths.
Oh, yeah, because that's basically when we got most of our sweets
Yeah.
was around,
The holiday season.
yeah, or maybe somebody's birthday. We'd Mom and make us some kind of a cake.
Okay. So another thing that's very important for Christmas is mail. Did you ever write letters to Santa? And if so, where did you write them to? And did you ever hear back from the North Pole?
No, because I became Dalton Sue when I was about 5. Because one of the visits, actually, it was the visit that I fell into Santa Claus's beard.
Oh, okay.
I had asked for a glass crooked leg doll in a red wagon. So when I was seeing Santa Claus, those 2 items were sitting right beside his chair.
Oh.
So the next morning, I got the doll under the Christmas tree and no red wagon. So I started crying, and I said, I'm mad at Santa Claus. He didn't bring my wagon.
Oh no.
And my mama said, well, you just need to wait a while and don't get so upset. Said, Santa Claus give you what he wanted you to have. So I always knew from the beginning that I thought, well, Santa Claus can't come down our chimney because it's covered up with a piece of tin and a stovepipe in it.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody always told me, well, he's magic. That's
This is
how he
true.
gets in.
He is magic.
And whenever I saw those 2 toys there and I got the doll, then we went to my grandpa's for Christmas Day dinner. And there's a good story about me and my hair under the bed trying to get my little red wagon out from
Aw.
under the bed because my hair got caught in the bed springs. So that particular Christmas, I think I actually knew that, Mom and Daddy were
Santa Claus.
the furnishings. Yeah.
Hmm.
Furnished our Christmas.
Now, with continuing with mail, if you didn't write to Santa or the North Pole, but do you recall getting Christmas cards and sending Christmas cards during the holiday season?
Well, our aunts and uncles that lived away, like in Blue Ridge, and Aunt Odell and her family were military, and they always lived in California or Virginia, someplace on the base. We got cards from them, and I think there was one or two people that Mama would send Christmas cards to.
Okay.
But mainly it was just a few Christmas cards from relatives.
Nice. Especially, if they're coming all the way, if they're getting a Christmas card from California or Virginia, that's a long way.
Right.
Now, next thing that comes up in my mind is religion, because religion's, again, it's a key part of the holiday season. It's the reason for the season. Was your church community an essential part of the holiday season?
Well, I was growing up. Daddy always took us to church. But there was a big breakup in the actual church that Daddy was attending. For most of us, we went to Arbor Hill Church.
Okay.
And there was a breakup in the church. And after that, Mom and Daddy helped constitute El Bethel Church, which used to be right on Owen Store Road.
Okay.
There's a house on the property now. But the breakup was because half of the people believed in missionaries going abroad and preaching and teaching about Jesus.
Okay.
The other half didn't want to support missionaries.
So that's where the split came into play.
Right. So that church was constituted, and my mom was one of the founding members of that church. So we attended that church for a long time. Then Daddy started just taking us to all kinds of churches. We went to every denomination imaginable. And Orange Church basically was the one where I got to attend most of my Sunday school teaching.
Okay.
And the two little books that I shared with you
at the beginning, yes.
At the beginning of when you came in was two of the gifts that I got from Orange Methodist Church. So they had a Christmas program, but it was at night. So Daddy didn't really take us anywhere at night much, except in the summers to revivals.
So those were kind of the special services that you would be able to go to. So y'all didn't do like a candlelight service or anything of that sort, like any special things during the holiday season at church?
No.
Okay. Were there any memories that you have during this time within church?
Yeah, I always remember the Sunday school teachers always had treats on the Sunday close to Christmas.
More sugar.
Yeah. And the one thing that I enjoyed from the treats actually was that they had potato chips.
Ooh.
And that was an unusual treat because we never got potato chips in a bag when we were a child. So when they had potato chips with your little pimento cheese sandwiches, they were so good. Yeah. And they had the chocolate candy and peppermint sticks.
All the good stuff.
Yeah.
And those always create good little memories there whenever with peppermints and stuff like that. It's always a good continuing. Now, music is the next thing that I had in my mind was, did the church do caroling, and did you have any favorite Christmas carols?
Well, if they did go caroling, they never came to our house because we lived so far off of the road.
Okay.
That if you rode up to our road, you would think it was just a path going to a field because it was very narrow, red dirt, woods on both sides, and it was so narrow that you would have to pull over to let another vehicle pass by.
One lane.
One lane. So, no, we didn't do any caroling, but we did listen to the Grand Ole Opry on our little silver tone staticky radio at nighttime near Christmas.
So that was kind of like your favorite kind of memory with music kind of coming on that time of the year.
Yeah, the Grand Ole Opry stars and people like that.
Do you have any favorite songs from the holiday season?
Oh, yeah. I always loved Santa Claus is Coming to Town and Jingle Bells. And my favorite hymn was Silent Night.
Did you have special, did you just like the song in general, or did you like specific performers that perform the songs over the years?
I just like the words of the song. And basically, Burl Ives was my favorite all-time Christmas singer because he had this nice Irish voice.
That's the things that stick to you, and the unique voice and things like that stick with you over time.
Yeah, and he sang Rudolph, the red-nosed reindeer.
I learned that this year, in 2024, the animated claymation version turned 60 years old this year.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe I'll have to watch it again.
Yeah, as I say, I learned that
it was on the other night. Is that the one that was on the other night?
They started doing them earlier this year, so it probably was. Yeah, it probably was on the other night. But they had 60 years old. I was like, man,
wow.
it's timeless. That's the thing at the end of the day. It's a timeless movie.
Yes.
Now, weather is something that comes up, and it's the time of the year. It gets colder. Things start kind of changing. Do you recall snow days from school and listen to the radio announcements, or waiting for your parents to wake you up to say, it's snowing outside, you don't have to go to school today?
I don't remember very many snow times at snow days or Christmas, but I remember the frigid cold.
I can believe that. Yeah, it gets cold.
Because our house was not insulated. It was just the boards that was on the outside of the house and the ceiling that was on the inside of the house. So it was a very cold time. But I do recall one Christmas that my brother Weldon gave me a little doll carriage.
Oh.
And that week it had rained quite a bit. And then it turned extremely cold, like maybe on the 23rd. And when the ground was really saturated like that, and it turned very cold, which was down in the teens,
Ooh.
The ground would freeze and icicles would spew out of the ground. And so it was all over our yard. There was just icicles sticking up all over the yard. And there was already ruts out in the road where the cars had made ruts and they had frozen. So when Weldon gave me my little doll carriage on Christmas morning, I put my dollies in it and I went outside. And I was still in my little red and blue plaid house shoes and my little house coat. But I was out there trying to push my dollies and kicking the icicles. And so finally, I think I heard Mama say from the porch, "You're going to have to come in. It's way too cold for you to be out here." So I continued pushing my dolls. And so he set the milk bucket on the porch. And he comes out the yard and he picks me up and he wraps me inside my coat, his coat. And,
stay warm.
And picked up my little doll carriage and carried me in the house. He said, "You're just going to have to wait until it warms up to ride your dollies outside. You just go in there and help Mama with breakfast."
Smart.
And so that was how I remember the cold at Christmas.
Do you have any other activities that you would kind of do when it snowed or the cold kind of weather in order to kind of occupy yourself during these days? Because whenever it's cold outside, sometimes you can get outside, sometimes you couldn't get outside.
Well, since we didn't have a TV, I usually occupied my time with books.
Nice.
I always had books, and I checked out books at school from the library. And basically, that was about it. I would color and draw. I always liked to draw things when I was a child.
It's something that it's a craft and a skill to be able to draw, and that's something I was not blessed with.
Well, I wasn't back in those days, and my painting that I do now still has a very childlike quality to it, but I enjoy doing it, so I
Your style.
continue.
Yeah, it's your style. It's who you are. That's the cool thing for it. Now, did you all ever have any white Christmases where it
No.
snowed, never snowed on Christmas?
Not that I remember.
Oh.
The first White Christmas I actually do remember was with my children.
Mhm.
So, but back in the old days, I don't remember.
Now
Yeah.
you had mentioned about the baby carriage, the little dolly carriage that you had. Do you have any special memories of memorable gifts that were given to you as well? Because you had mentioned the doll, and then you had mentioned the wagon, and then you had the carriage that you had. Do you have any other memorable gifts?
Yes, one Christmas I got a rubber doll that had real hair that you could comb. And another Christmas, I got a doll that was probably about 2.5 feet tall,
Wow.
and she had a glass head, or pottery head, I don't know
Like porcelain or something like that, yeah.
Yes, and then her arms and legs was rubber, and the body was soft. It was made
Huh.
out of cloth and stuffed. But when you turned her from her back to her tummy and turned her back up, she would cry, and her eyes would open and close.
Wow.
So, being the doubting little Sue that I used to be, I found that doll under the bed before
Oh,
Christmas.
snooping.
Snoopy Sue.
Is there any memorable gifts that you've given over the years?
Well, the most memorable gift that I remember giving to a particular person was when my children were small. Lance was obsessed with fire trucks. So we found him a big plastic pedal fire truck.
Nice.
And that little kid was so excited
I can believe it.
when I remember that Christmas so well. He had on little yellow footy pajamas and that little blonde head, and he was holding on to the steering wheel, looking in it. Then he'd ding the bell, he'd get in and out of it, and he'd pedal as far as he could across the living room, and then he'd go pull it back and pedal it
Start again.
So I guess that memory sticks in my head. And Harold was about that excited when he got his first bicycle.
Those are very impactful things.
So then Nina, the things that she enjoyed getting was clothes and makeup when she was like in the 8th grade or something.
It's that transitional time, starting wearing the makeup.
Yeah. And so, but Christmas gifts and giving in my childhood was basically not happening. We got our Santa gifts, and that was about it.
Now, when it comes to in childhood and then becoming a young adult, getting older, did you help pick out gifts for loved ones, or was that just a parental thing?
It was the parent thing. Mama always picked out what we got. And, you might could tell her what you wanted. But I remember one Christmas, it was fashionable about 4th, 5th grade that they started making blue jeans for girls that was lined with flannel
Ooh, I bet you that was nice
for
and warm.
warmth.
Yeah.
And the cuff on the pants would fold up. And then they had a shirt that matched the
Aw.
fold up of the
Of the flannel.
pants. Yeah. And so I got those for Christmas one year. And I got a new house coat that was bought in the store, which was chenille. It's nice, soft, and fluffy, warm.
Gotta love the touch of fluffy. Like,
Yeah. But that's pretty much the kind of things that we had.
now, no, you said you snooped and found the doll under the bed one time. Did you ever do any other snooping and find any other evidences of Christmas over the years?
No, that was the big one, 'cause Mama was a master at hiding those red apples and candy and other gifts that we got.
Now, as children, we all, whenever we discover that the truth about Santa, how old were you and how did you feel whenever you realized that Santa was family?
Well, that goes back to the story of the doll and the wagon,
Yes.
because I might have been 5, 6, but that's when I questioned how could Santa Claus come down that chimney with a pipe in it. So I guess I always knew that there really wasn't a being that came into your house and left gifts, but I was a good pretender. If I didn't believe in Santa Claus, I wouldn't get a gift.
That's true.
That's what I thought anyway, and it probably would have been. Well, she's old enough, she don't believe in Santa, so there ain't no need in giving any gifts.
Smart. Very smart girl.
Yeah.
Now, with family coming together during the holiday season and everything, do you have any stories that were told about your parents' Christmas growing up?
This goes back to Daddy's childhood. And my dad went to school right out here at Trinity Church Road in Arbor Hill. There used to be a school there, and it was called Central Heights.
Okay.
And the principal was Quay Latham, which was the Latham family in Lathamtown.
Yes.
And so he was Daddy's teacher.
Okay.
And they would put up a Christmas tree, and Daddy said every child had to bring a gift to put on the tree.
Oh.
So all the gifts that were given to each other at the school was actually hung on the tree. And there
Nice.
was a candy cane on the tree with each child's name on it.
Aw.
Evidently, that came from the teachers. But Daddy would always talk about putting his gift on the tree. And I never did, as an adult, think to ask Daddy what kind of things he put on the tree. But Daddy was a good whittler. He was he could carve wood with his knife. And so I figure he must have carved some kind of a little animal or an ornament.
And placed it on the tree.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and put that on the tree. And when I was a child in the summertime, Daddy would, when the corn got harvested in the fall,
Mhm.
he would take the hardest corn stalks and he would make me little dolls out of.
Oh, wow.
And he made me a little horse, and he made me a dog out of corn stalks. And he actually whittled the head It looked like a little dog's head.
Aw.
And so Mama showed me how to take the dried corn silks and put hair on my dolls.
Oh, smart. Resourceful.
And the shucks were the dress. You would take the corn husk
Yeah.
and cut them and take a piece of yarn or thread and tie them around the middle so they had a dress.
Very creative, very smart to be able to have it. And it's something that's readily available. So it's simple, but perfect. And that's the one thing I feel like today we look for all these intricate items, but the simplest of things is sometimes the best of things, for sure.
Yes.
Now, as we've had this conversation today, is there anything that maybe I've overlooked during our time here that you'd like to discuss?
Well, I think we've pretty well covered everything. I feel like I've gotten pretty long-winded here.
No, not at all. I love it. This has been beautiful. This is the kind of conversations I love, getting to be able to hear and learn people's past, and because everyone has a story, everyone has something to say, and it's allowing that voice to be heard and being able to put it out to a large audience to be able to hear that. And I hope that if you're listening to this, to be able to go and get your book to hear more of your stories about your life growing up, because of that book is phenomenal. And I'll have a link in the bottom of the descriptions for anyone that wants to be able to go and purchase the book, to be able to get your hands on it. Are there any last minute words of wisdom that you would like to provide the audience with?
Well, just love your family, honor your family, be with those you love during the holidays, but especially all through the year too,
Yes.
because the holidays are special, and that's when people actually do feel more loving and giving. But we need to do that every week.
I agree. Year round. Yes.
Yes.
Every day is a new day. Every day is a special day.
Right.
Now, as we leave out here today, if anyone would like to be able to reach out, to be able to continue the kind of the conversation or things of sort, I have an email address, which is cade, which is spelled CADE, at learningfromfriends.com. I've got a Facebook page if you'd like to look up on Facebook. I've got a Twitter page, or X as people call it. I've got a LinkedIn page, and I've got an Instagram page, which are all located as Learning from Friends. So as we leave out here, Sue, thank you for coming on and sharing this morning with me in the afternoon that we're getting ready to kind of go into on this cold, kind of chilly day. And most of all, as we leave here, don't forget to let your curiosity fly high.
Cade, I really love that saying. And so I let my curiosity fly when I was a child. And it's developed over the years. And my curiosity is out there still flying around.
That's always a beautiful thing, and always let it fly and always let it grow. So everyone, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and stay safe out there. And we'll catch you in 2025.